Hello and welcome everybody to Maker Monday on Go Imagine. I want to thank you all for being here right now. This is the first time we've ever done a public live cast on Facebook and on YouTube, so it's very exciting to be here. Truth be told, we are still experimenting with how to do these. And for today, we're doing something unique, which we're doing as our Maker Monday interviews. Now, for a lot of you, you already know that Go Imagine is the world's first marketplace that's going to be donating 100% profits to charity, but we cannot do it without our makers. So that's why we decided that it'd be a good idea to start introducing our makers to the world and letting everyone who follows Go Imagine and shops on Go Imagine to start learning more about the makers that are making Go Imagine possible. So with that said, we have a very special guest today. It is our first guest ever on our Maker Monday web series. And I think you're going to love what she has to offer or love what she has to say. So let me go ahead and bring her in right now. And I want to introduce you all to Leah Chichantek. Hello, Leah.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me. Good. Not too much going on over here.
Well, I am very excited to talk to you. Just a little brief time here to get to know a little bit more about you and your new Go Imagine store that I know you're starting up on our site, which I really appreciate. But let's just start with the basics, Leah. Let's talk about, what got you started in making jewelry.
Well, as everyone knows, college girls don't have a lot of money. So I had gotten to the point where I was kind of getting sick of everything that was in my jewelry box, and I really wanted something new, but I was pretty short on funds. So I grabbed a couple of pairs of pliers and I started taking apart the stuff I had in my jewelry box already and piecing it together into new items. From there, I've just kind of blossomed into a bunch of different avenues.
All right. So, I mean, what is the term? The need is the motherhood of invention, and you needed some jewelry, so you made yourself some jewelry. All right.
Yep.
Now that works. So you say you just started grabbing things, you started making jewelry. Now I've looked at some of the things you're selling on Go Imagine, and it looks way more complicated than just slapping jewelry together. I know we were talking about this earlier, and the handmade jewelry genre in general. You were saying that you feel that it's a little misunderstood. Is that how you put it?
Yeah. You get a lot of people that just think you're throwing beads on a string and calling it handmade jewelry. And it is, to an extent, that's how a lot of people get started. But honestly, there's countless hours of practice and trial and error and real actual hard work that goes into creating a piece that you feel like would be good enough to put out into the public.
Do you think over the years you've just gotten better and better just by
Absolutely. Yeah. Practice makes perfect is completely true.
No kidding. Yeah, because I'm always intrigued by what I see people selling on Go Imagine. I'm sometimes amazed by some of the things being sold because it looks so good. Mm-hmm. It looks like it's manufactured. It's like there's no way hands put together this item. Do you find yourself that as you've been making more and more that you push yourself further, like you try to make more complicated things, or you try to get?
To an extent, I of course have my tried and true methods that I go to, especially when I'm in a creative block. But I do a lot of custom orders too, and those really push me out of my comfort zone a lot. I had a couple years ago a dragonfly ring request. And I'd never made an animal before, let alone an animal on a ring or one that was wire wrapped. So trying to figure out the logistics of how to put that together was really a challenge.
Wow. So literally when you say custom, someone has an idea and says, hey, I want this with that, put it together and you're like, I guess I'll figure it out for them.
Yep, exactly.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, no, I did want to talk to you a little bit about your store in particular. Let me go ahead and bring it up right now. Now your store is called the Greene Bead, right? And I want to talk a little bit about the products you have, but tell me more about the name. Where did the Greene Bead come from?
So it kind of started when I started creating. At the time, like I said, I was taking things apart and putting them back together. And so 99% of the items that I were using were reclaimed materials.
Mhm.
I slowly started getting into using gemstones, which is something that I've been interested in since I was knee high to a grasshopper. And I've slowly moved away from that, but I do still want to try to stay with that, keep me at my roots, if you will. Still using glass crystals that I've taken out of rings that are broken,
Mhm.
or finding a clasp that has a really neat design on it that would make a great focal point on the side of a chain.
Okay. So what do you now? This is me being the dummy in the room. Can you explain to me and everybody else reclaimed? What do you mean by reclaimed?
Reclaimed can be anything from a vintage piece or something found that was headed towards the trash heap, that someone else wouldn't necessarily find any value in, but can be a beautiful item.
Okay. All right. So how do you find your reclaimed items? Like when you want to make something new, are you going on sites searching for reclaimed items to make jewelry out of? Are you finding the stuff yourself? How do you go about getting your supplies and getting what it is you want to make?
Sure. It's a little bit of both, honestly. I have some blue sapphire pieces that a friend gave me a ring of his that had snapped
Mhm.
in half and was mangled as all get out. And
Okay.
so I grabbed the sapphires out of that. Or one of my friends says, "Hey, I don't want any of this stuff. Will you take this bag?" And then I try to find something that I feel would be useful for my style. And I'll
Mhm.
keep that and donate the rest to an aspiring artist.
All right. That's wonderful. So you literally are just taking things that seemingly didn't have a purpose and making something brand new out of them.
Mhm.
All right. And going through here, so obviously this is the Greene Bead store. I think you have a lot of fantastic things on the site here. I know this one in particular I wanted to open up, and we were talking about earlier. So the pastel watercolor polymer clay and a copper wire wrapped necklace. You said there was a little bit of a story behind this one?
Yeah, so it's actually a very interesting story. I the long and short of it is I was trying to make a rainbow, and the rainbow looked like crap, to put it nicely.
All right.
And I tried to pull it apart to salvage the clay, but it was so smooshed together that I couldn't pull it apart. And I decided to just smash it. And it created this really pretty
Wow.
watercolor looking design. Um, and so I was like, okay, well, I can use this. I can make something out of this. And
Mhm.
just a few months before creating this piece, I had had a custom order that wanted me to combine polymer clay and copper wire together. And I
Mhm.
didn't really know how to do that. It took me about 6 months to really think about how to actually put that together in a way that made sense. And
All right.
popping holes in the clay and weaving it through is the idea that came forth. And it actually looked so neat that when I decided to smash this clay together, I decided that I was going to do the same sort of weaving technique on this piece
Mhm.
as well.
Okay. Well, yeah, I imagine. I mean, as an artist, and I'm speaking by someone who is not an artist. As an artist, do you find the experimentation phase, like the fact that you kind of,
Mhm.
I want to say you play around to kind of find things, and then you say, hey, that looks good. Maybe I try it this way or that way. Is that part of your process normally to stumble
Yeah,
upon a way to make something?
absolutely. I'm completely self-taught, so everything that I create or have learned how to do has all been trial and error. Seeing
Mhm.
what works, seeing what doesn't work, and if it doesn't work, what can I do to salvage it to turn it into something better?
Okay. Got it. Yeah. And now to be clear, it's not just the polymer clay. Like this, you actually make the actual necklace part, the actual necklace, the chain.
Yep, the chain, the clasps, the ear wires. I really try to make sure that everything I do is completely from scratch, even though I do still throw in those reclaimed pieces here and there. And I do throw in, of course, I don't cut my own stones. So I
Right.
do keep those as well. But I really prefer to put out a piece that's completely made from scratch.
I mean, that for me is something that I find incredible because from my eyes, right, the average person wouldn't realize how much effort went into it. You know, some people might think you created this, I don't know, we'll call that the pendant, and then attached it to an earring that already you bought and already existed, not made the actual earring piece as well. Or maybe you just made this pendant down here, that part, but not the actual necklace. But the entire thing, soup to nuts in this case, is made by your hands. And I'm sure a lot of time and effort put into it. Which is incredible when you look at the intricacy of every loop you've done here. That's amazing. So let me ask you, why jewelry? I mean, I imagine whenever someone wants to get into handmade works of art, you have an option. I mean, you've obviously got a lot of talent. You have an eye for artistic things. Well, why did you choose jewelry?
I wouldn't say that I chose jewelry. I would say that jewelry chose me.
Okay.
My late great uncle was a jeweler. He'd been doing that for about 40 years. My great aunt would design the settings, and then he would solder the setting together, cut the stone, set the stone, and then send that out into the world. And ever since he passed, I feel like I need to kind of live up to that legacy a little bit.
All right. So this is kind of a family thing where you got to watch your elders create jewelry on their own, and it just was a natural calling for you to continue making jewelry on your end.
I mean, who doesn't love something pretty and shiny?
That's very true. That's very true. So how I forgot to ask earlier, how long have you been doing this? How long have you been professionally actually making money off doing handmade jewelry?
I started 10 years ago, but I didn't start selling until about 8 years ago. And that mark hit about mid-December.
Okay. All right. So about 8 years now. And did you jump straight online when you started selling, or where did you start selling first?
No, I've actually only been online for about 3.5 years.
Okay.
I grew up in a really small town. Our population sign says 888.
The sign actually says 888.
Yes, very tiny. They did update
it, right?
Yeah, they did update it this last year. I think it's like 912 now. But
so I didn't know. As an aside, I didn't know towns did that still. That's like in the movies where someone leaves the town and the number just falls to the next place.
Yeah, and honestly, it is pretty much like that. Everybody knows everybody.
Okay.
So I had been just kind of mulling around. I used to work for this really great bar and restaurant or supper club if you're from the Midwest.
Okay.
And my boss decided to just randomly host like an art show one year, not for selling anything, just for showing that, hey, like people in this town, we do something.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of sparked from there. There's these really great friends of mine, Gary and Elaine Wesley. They are entertainment artists. Gary does Elvis, and he was inducted into the Hall of Fame actually this last summer. Wow. And his wife Elaine does Patsy Cline. And they have been now for the past 6 years putting on this event called Elvis Fest that donates all of their proceeds to Parkinson's research. So I've been with them since the beginning, and they're really the ones that kind of got me into the craft fair world, if you will.
Okay. And so how many craft fairs now do you do a year?
It depends. I do live quite a few hours away from back home. So the rules and regulations are a little bit different here in the city than they are back at home. Mm-hmm. But I try to do at least 3 a year, if not 5.
Okay. All right. And then were you telling me earlier that there's a brick and mortar place as well that you're now selling?
Yeah. It's called O Arts, and it's in Mauston, Wisconsin. Okay. It's more so an art gallery, but they also sell pieces there from all of us local artists. They consider me local, even though I'm not local anymore, but I did grow up there. So, and then they host, guitar lessons and drawing classes and photography adventures here and there. So it's kind of a little bit of everything.
Okay, so it's a celebration of arts in general across all types of arts.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Okay, so do you sell at any brick and mortar stores, or is that the primary place that you're selling right now?
That's the only one for now. I would like to get into some stores here in Racine, but I'm still. We've only been here for a little while, so I'm still kind of learning the town and learning the people here and the dynamic of how the city works and which stores would really be a good fit for me to go into and ask about putting my pieces there.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and I'm sure. So tell me about your strategy here. I guess I should first ask, are you doing this as your full-time job right now?
I am, yes.
Okay.
I have a genetic disability that prevents me from working a regular job. So it started as a hobby, but now it's my main gig, if you will.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, especially because it's not only something that you're passionate about, but it's something that you can do and still make an income, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Where do you hope to take things in the future with your shop? Are you going to expand into other avenues? Do you want to get into different types of art? I mean, what does the future look like for the Greene Bead?
So I actually already do several different types of art. About 3 years ago, when my partner introduced me to polymer clay, I started just playing around with it, and I started creating these little gardens. So they're miniature gardens. They're like fairy gardens, but they're for indoor use only and just for decoration, not for, they're not toys. And then I do wire tree sculptures as well on hunks of what is called a cold water agate or a druzy quartz, which is very prevalent in Wisconsin. So I'll go out and I'll find really nice specimens and I'll clean them up and I'll bring them up into the shop and I'll create a little sculpture on top of them. So eventually I'd like to continue doing all three different forms. I'd like to lean a little bit more into the sculpture and the miniatures because I feel like that's really what people are looking at more nowadays. Jewelry is kind of a frivolous, extra income only type of deal, which is fine. There's people that don't like jewelry at all, and that's totally okay. But I don't want to close off any doors.
Yeah, so earlier we were talking, and you actually had something on your desk. I think you were showing me one of the items, weren't you?
Yeah. Did you want to see the tree or the garden?
I want to see everything. I want to see show me the garden first.
Okay. So this is, I don't know if you can see it. There we go.
No, that's great. Yeah.
It's a reclaimed salt pinch pot, like they used to put on tables at dinners, with a druzy quartz, a smoky citrine point, and polymer clay mushrooms.
And so those are like little Mario Brothers mushrooms that you created from polymer clay.
Yeah.
That's adorable. And so you had a tree as well that you were making?
Yes. So this is actually the brick and mortar that we were talking about. Arts. The woman bought all of my trees out of the shop and asked for more. So this is actually already set aside for her. But this is
it's adorable.
Quartz on the bottom.
Put it a little bit closer to the screen.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I love it. That's great. So is that the same wire wrap that you used for the necklace? The same type of? Yeah. Okay. That's is a copper, I'm guessing?
It is, yes.
Yeah. No, I love the creativity. So you're using the same things for the jewelry to make your other items like the garden and everything else. That's fantastic. So obviously you're getting into different mediums, I guess you would call it. Are you looking to expand more online or expand more physical with craft fairs and brick and mortar?
I really like the ease of selling online. Of course, you just take a photo, post it, do a little bit of SEO research, and you're pretty much good to go. But I don't like the fact that I can't interact with people. So I wouldn't say that I'm really necessarily leaning towards one direction or the other. I do like being able to talk with people, explaining a piece and how it's been made or what inspired me to make it, versus the fact of, here's a pretty picture. Do you like it? No? Okay, cool.
Well, that is exactly what I was saying earlier, that I didn't even have enough appreciation for some of what was being made as we started to go imagine. And the more I talk to artists like you, and the more that I see and I hear what people put into building it, it makes all of it more valuable, right? It makes it all worth more to understand the not just the level of effort went into it, but the love that went into it, and the training that went into it, right? And you're right. People say a picture's worth 1,000 words, but meeting the maker makes a picture the maker a million words, right?
It does, yeah.
It means so much more, and that's why I was excited to start some of these interviews, because the more I learned about what our makers are making, the more I wanted to give that to the world so people can see the people behind what's being made. So that's fantastic. Yeah, and I'm hoping that over time we can give that opportunity virtually to meet the maker, just like you're talking about here, so that those who come to our site can actually get to know who's making the items. So obviously you're going to keep selling in both areas. When you started selling online a few years ago, what was the hardest part for you? Was there something in particular selling online that you found the most difficult?
Actually, I'm going to be totally honest with you, John. My first year was so easy.
Was it?
And then I found out about SEO. And it has been so hard ever since then.
It made it worse.
It did. Yeah, absolutely.
So your first year, did you get a lot of sales?
The first year I was actually only up for about 6 months, and I only had 5 items listed. Okay. But within 3 months, 2 of those items sold already. Okay. I started putting a couple more pieces up. I was like, wow, okay, this is actually going somewhere. And I got a few more sales. And then that's when I found out about SEO, and everything kind of tanked. So I'm working my way back up from there.
Yeah, I think that's the challenge from my perspective on being a maker, is because makers are artists making great things. But when you want to sell them now, all of a sudden you're an entrepreneur that has to know SEO and technology, and that, I mean, they're different skill set, and you got to learn both. Absolutely. Right. So I can totally see that the more you get into the technology, the more overwhelming sometimes it can become, especially when you're someone like you living full time off it, and you want, it's not just a hobby, you are making your income, and I'm sure you want to make more money because everybody does, right?
I mean, money is nice, but honestly, I really am more focused on giving someone something that nobody else in the world has. This garden right here, I will never make another one exactly like it. If someone purchases this, they will be the only one that has it. And that's really what drives me. Right.
Buying something unique. No, I can see that. And knowing that things that you made, other people have in their homes and they're wearing. Right. So let me ask you this. If for a new seller, a new maker who wants to get involved in either selling at craft fairs, selling online, maybe they've been making things and they want to get that push, they want to take the first leap, what type of advice would you give someone brand new who's trying to start out?
Take time for yourself, honestly. Set a schedule for yourself, rather. Okay. Before we moved into this house, I'd never had a separate office. It was always in the middle of my living room. I had all of my supplies right there in the corner. I had my computer right in front of me, and I really let it take over. I was working from 10 in the morning until 11:30 at night, either creating or taking photos or listing items or trying to reply back to people. And it's okay to take that time for yourself and have time with your family and time to spend with your partner, your loved one, your pets, whoever. Even just sit back and drink a glass of wine and watch TV because you want to. That's okay.
Right. And not get all consumed by the business. Yeah, no, that is fantastic advice, because when you're in it, you can lose sight of the fact that there are other things in life than just trying to get your business started, and you can burn yourself out, I assume.
Yes, I've suffered burnout more than a few times. So.
I have as well. Okay, well, listen, Leah, I can't thank you enough for doing this. Like I mentioned earlier, this is the first ever Maker Monday interview we've done. I want to thank everybody who actually took the time to watch this. Definitely want feedback because we're going to be doing these every Monday, and I hope to keep making them better. Once again, we are with Leah Chichantek from the Greene Bead. You can check her out on Go Imagine. You can also check her out locally at, what was the brick and mortar store again?
O Arts in Mauston, Wisconsin.
O Arts in Wisconsin. Check them out as well. We'll be doing this every week. So thank you, everybody. Leah, thank you for being here. And I will see everyone next Monday. Thanks all.